nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello everyone, good morning, welcome to Madrid Mornings, this new segment we created over at Managing Madrid podcast. The morning after every single Real Madrid game, we're going to review Real Madrid's poor performance against Arsenal when they needed it the most in the return leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. Real Madrid couldn't pull it through, they didn't even win the game. And ultimately fell eliminated in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. This will be a free episode to everyone, for everyone to listen to. But we're planning on making this new segment, this Madrid Mornings, for Patreons only. So please, if you like the show, if you are considering listening to this new segment on a consistent basis, please consider a Patreon subscription in order to enjoy the show and obviously support the crew and the whole team from now on. I'll be very honest, I didn't prepare any show notes or any specific thoughts about the game or about, what the future holds for Real Madrid. So this will be me ranting for the next 20-25 minutes about the state of the team, about how the team performed, about the quotes, about squad building. Where do Real Madrid go from here in the future, and what took us to this moment, to this point in time where Real Madrid fell and felt like hopeless against Arsenal, quite honestly being completely dominated throughout two legs by just a superior Arsenal team. This is my breakdown of the whole affair, is that Arsenal were the superior team, the better team for the whole tie. Real Madrid, in no single point in time, I felt like Real Madrid deserved to be beating Arsenal and to advance to the next round of the competition. So all credit goes to Arsenal. They were the better coach team. They were the better team, period, overall. What leaves most of Real Madrid's fans frustrated is the fact that, Real Madrid should have an advantage in talent, right? Arsenal have quality players. You could argue that 3 or 4 of them could be starting for Real Madrid, considering the injuries Real Madrid have at the moment. But it's not like Arsenal have players like Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, Courtois, Rudiger even. Saliba and Rudiger can be comparable. If not, Saliba is probably better, but it's still a talent advantage. The talent discrepancy is huge in favor of Real Madrid. So Real Madrid have mismanaged this talent, and that's the main reason why the team has failed this season. I already labeled this season as a failure, and we still don't know what's going to happen in the race for La Liga. There's no definitive answer about that, even though it's pretty clear to me that Barcelona are not going to drop this title. So this season can be considered a failure, in my opinion. Should be considered a failure. The club should see it as a failure. And, I am going to share more thoughts about this later on, but just because of that, I think Ancelotti should be gone by the end of the season. I have been reading both now and also in last night's post-game show that people would like to see Ancelotti like sacked now instead of at the end of the season. I see the point. I think like you can have a certain boost in morale, in confidence by sacking Ancelotti now and replacing him with Raúl, quite possibly, because Alonso is not going to join now. There are two counters I would use against this narrative. One is that if you name Raúl as your coach now, he's not going anywhere in the summer. So you would lose the opportunity to sign Xabi Alonso in the summer. And the other one is that I think out of respect to what Ancelotti has achieved as a Real Madrid coach over a decade, he has not been here the entire decade, but you know what I'm saying? He joined in 2013-14, and now this is his second stint. And we're already 2025. He's won 3 Champions League titles. I believe I was going to say 2 Liga titles, but not just one. And Copa del Rey, I'm not sure. Anyway, on top of my head, I'm not even sure what Ancelotti's trophy cabinet looks like as a Real Madrid coach, but he's definitely one of the best Real Madrid coaches in terms of trophy count Real Madrid have ever had. So, out of respect for his figure, for what he's achieved as a coach in Madrid, you kind of just have to wait it out and give him until the very end of the season. The very end of the season. I just don't believe replacing him now with Raúl would make that big of a difference. Where Real Madrid's chances of winning the La Liga would be increased by that big of a margin. So it's just what it is. The season is pretty much over because the Copa del Rey final happens in 9 days now. And after that, unless Barcelona somehow fail in the biggest of ways in La Liga, I just don't think Real Madrid's chances of conquering the domestic title are that high. Anyway, let's break down a little the game, quotes about the game, all that. We discussed this with Kian last night. Real Madrid, like the PR team, the players, even coaching staff, were kind of hyping this remontada thing. And all we got was a very, very poor Real Madrid performance. I felt that the effort and the heart and the intensity were there. But ultimately, the same issue that has been haunting Real Madrid for the entire season happened again, which is that Real Madrid are not playing quality football. There is no plan, no structure in the midfield, no cohesion. I'm seeing nothing from this team. Just nothing. They play, they try with a couple long balls through Rudiger and Asensio. The midfield is just non-existent when it comes to building a decent play from the back. And Arsenal were just completely comfortable in this game. I don't feel like they truly felt at any point in time that the ticket to the semifinals was in danger for them. They were pretty comfortable. Sure, okay, in the penalty maybe they were a bit scared, but other than that, I felt like they were really, really comfortable throughout the course of the game, and that's obviously a big failure for Real Madrid, who should have put some more pressure on Arsenal to play better, to at least feel the pressure a little bit, right? 4 shots on target is just not enough for the kind of context we are talking about last night. It's just the end product Real Madrid put on this over 180 minutes is just not enough, and a complete failure. The fact that you weren't able to even compete and play with again a coherent, a decent structure over 180 minutes is just baffling to me, given the kind of talent Real Madrid have on the field and on the roster. I'm seeing different players blamed. Some like I feel like the fan base is divided a little bit. Some are blaming Vinicius. Some are blaming Mbappe. Most of them are blaming Ancelotti. I think a little bit more of the blame should also go to squad building, to Florentino, and to whoever makes the call about, what the roster looks like every September. I don't know how these people are getting away with this. They thought that replacing Kroos with Mbappe makes sense. To me, that's nonsense. Mbappe was always going to be an upgrade, and with what you had last year, because Bellingham, like what Bellingham did last year, was a pretty big miracle in the sense of Real Madrid had no striker, and Bellingham, for the first time in his career, played as a secondary striker and carried Real Madrid to a league title and a Champions League title. That's a miracle. So, actually adding a striker makes sense, because last year we were all saying Real Madrid need a striker. Real Madrid need a striker. Whether Mbappe is that a striker you need is an entirely different discussion. But he's a striker. He's more comfortable on the left wing. Sure, he can play as a striker. He still needs time and opportunity to keep improving as a central striker, because, guys, let's be honest, if you're blaming Mbappe, breaking news, he's not going anywhere. So Real Madrid need him to keep developing as a central striker, because Vinicius is not going anywhere either. They just need to coexist. You need to find a way to make them coexist. Mbappe needs to improve as a striker. Vinicius needs to improve his performances. Vinicius' season has been pretty poor. We can be honest about that. Mbappe has been a bit of a disappointment. We all expected a bit more, I think, even though his numbers have been great. I think it was pretty reasonable to expect a bit more from Mbappe so far this season. But Vinicius needs to improve as well. I don't see how you can blame just one of them. And again, I think more of the blame should go to the board. During the winter, you already knew Carvajal and Militao were done for the season, and just refused to make signings for the defensive line. So I wouldn't say you were forced to start Lucas Vázquez and Alaba in the as fullbacks yesterday. You had options. I would have gone with those options. I would not have started Valverde as a midfielder. I think Lucas Vázquez is unplayable. So blame goes to Ancelotti for starting Lucas Vázquez as a right back yesterday. There were options for Ancelotti not to start Lucas Vázquez. You could have deployed Valverde as a right back and then use Modric as a central midfielder if Ceballos wasn't ready to start. And then Fran Garcia. I feel like Fran Garcia would have been better than Alaba. I think Alaba's washed. I think Real Madrid need to find a way to get rid of Alaba's contract. Biggest respect goes to him, to his career and all that. I don't think he's ready to play against Saka like right now. So I think Fran Garcia, as like average as he is, would have done a better job against Saka in both legs, if I'm being totally honest. So I think more blame should go to the board. More blame should also go to Rodrigo. I've been gone and ranting for 15 minutes already, and I haven't mentioned Rodrigo's name. We're talking about Vinicius and Mbappe. Why are we not talking about Rodrigo? What's going on with this man? And this is I'm seeing some Arsenal fans on chat like making fun of me ranting, and everyone like ranting and being desperate about what happened last night. We're not desperate. We're just pointing out the failures this team has had in so far this season, in 6-7 months that this season has gone on. All credit goes to Arsenal. Absolutely. Absolutely. But what again? Why are we not talking about Rodrigo? Everyone's talking about Mbappe and Vinicius. Vinicius has been poor this season. Mbappe has been mid, I would say, this season. Why are we not talking about Rodrigo? Why is Rodrigo still starting? Why is no one like? Why are we talking about selling Vinicius, about Mbappe being a failure, and nobody's talking about selling Rodrigo? Why isn't nobody talking about Brahim deserving more minutes than Rodrigo at this point in time? It shocked me a little bit to see Ancelotti going with Hendrik on the right wing and not with Brahim. Now you're trusting Hendrik when he's barely playing in La Liga, even in games that you should consider manageable. Now you trust Hendrik. So yeah, Ancelotti was a few head scratching decisions that made no sense to me. I feel like at that point, like with 20 minutes to go, nothing he could have done would have actually like turned things around for Madrid. But it's just like an endless succession of failures and bad decisions from the board to the coaching staff to some of the players. Like everyone's at fault here, and no part of the club should escape the pressure and the blame here. To me, team building should be like at the top, if I'm being honest. And I realize Ancelotti should have done a better job with the roster he has been handed. I also acknowledge that with the talent Ancelotti was given, he should be deploying a better product, a better playing style than what Real Madrid have been doing so far this season. I can acknowledge and completely admit that. But at the end of the day, the roster made no sense to me. And you had an opportunity during the winter to kind of fix it, and you didn't. And now reports indicate that you are going to have an opportunity to fix it in the summer by adding Dean, who looks great in the Premier League, looks to be like a pretty easy signing, in my opinion. Pretty obvious one. Like 60 million euros for a player of that caliber, with that kind of potential, who is actually dying to play for Real Madrid, according to reports and according to his father even. And reports say, maybe too expensive. Real Madrid are not willing to pay that much. Okay, fine. Makes no sense to me. That's why I don't believe the board ruled and led by Florentino Perez should escape blame here. I don't know why everyone is talking about Ancelotti, about Mbappe, about Vinicius, and nobody's talking about squad building and Florentino. Am I saying Florentino should go? No, because what's the alternative? We don't know what the alternative looks like. We got a glimpse of that with Ramon Calderon, and that was pretty terrible, right? But Florentino needs to fix some issues during the summer if he truly wants. Like, I feel like it's not like Real Madrid need a complete overhaul in terms of the roster, but they need some very crucial and key signings that they cannot overlook or decide not to do. An extra body in the defensive line. You need a fullback on the right flank. You definitely need. Apparently, that's going to be addressed with Alexander Arnold. That's not official just yet, but I believe it's pretty certain according to reports. You probably need an extra body on the left back position as well. Mendy cannot be trusted, and Fran Garcia is not ready to play for Real Madrid in these big games. I would also add another midfielder. Modric apparently cannot start anymore, not even when Camavinga is suspended. I'm not even sure about the prospect of relying on Camavinga to be an undisputed starter for this team, so you probably need a midfielder as well. And then, I don't know, you need a coaching decision as well, obviously. And I feel Ancelotti's gone, so you need to be spot on your appointment there for your future coach. In my opinion, it should be Alonso. But if you are naming Alonso as your next coach, you need to give him the power to have some say in the transfer decisions. Is Florentino willing to do that? I'm not sure. I've seen some reports about Klopp. Yeah, chat, I know. I'm not sure those reports are reliable. That will be my first assessment of the whole deal. And if I'm being totally honest, Alonso is a bit more appealing to me. I don't know why, really. Klopp is obviously a more proven manager. No question. Alonso knows the Spanish press. He has great reputation in the Spanish press. I feel he would be given more patience, Alonso, than Klopp. Klopp would be facing more pressure from the very first minute. I also don't, again, just to reiterate, I just don't feel the Klopp rumors are real. I don't. I think it's going to be Alonso. Those are the things Real Madrid need to address in the summer. Will they? I'm not sure. According to reports, the Ding situation is going to be he's going to join another Premier League club, which is total nonsense to me. That new coach should also try to maximize Bellingham on the field. I feel like Bellingham's role this season has been a complete waste of his talents. I think Bellingham should be playing closer to the box, but then you would also need to add another midfielder, because otherwise you're playing with Valverde and Tchouaméni as your only midfielders, and your midfield doesn't exist. The player who should be dropped is quite possibly Rodrigo. Is that easy to me? That simple. Ancelotti hasn't done that for quite some time. To me, Bellingham is at his best when he's playing behind the striker and not when he's required to do all this work, this defensive work as a number 8. Tchouaméni and Fede Valverde double pivot should work. At the end of the day, if you are also deploying Bellingham, Rodrigo, Vinicius, and Mbappe, they are too isolated. So you will need an extra midfielder, I believe. I don't think you can get away with playing Tchouaméni, Valverde, and then Bellingham, Vinicius, Mbappe, and Rodrigo, or an attacking right winger, whoever that attacking right winger is. Sample size is big enough for us to realize that that midfield doesn't work. That structure doesn't work. Unless they're given proper instructions, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Alonso makes it work. With Ancelotti, it doesn't work. Sample size has already proven that. Real Madrid midfield doesn't exist when that lineup is on the field. They are just relying on the attacking players to pull a rabbit out of their head and score, because the midfield just doesn't exist. Anyway, guys, I feel like I'm just ranting here. We are going to do a Patreons only big call later today in less than 8 hours, 6 p.m. Spanish time. with Kian, Leah, Matt, and Angelo. So make sure you join that if you're a Patreon. If you're not, consider becoming one to support the show and support the whole crew. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you're enjoying this new segment, even though today was basically me ranting for 25 minutes. But I feel we need this kind of therapy after the night of the disaster happened. A super chat came in. Let me take that real quick, and I'll head off. Thank you, Sagnik. Big up, Lucas. Cards on the table. What do you want from Jude as a Real Madrid player? I share your concerns regarding his role. What should be his profile for you? Number 10, or even a classic number 7, if you will, in my opinion. A secondary striker with the ability to crash the box, crash the penalty spot, and find some goals there. I need his numbers to be maybe not as great as they were last year, because he was playing pretty much as a striker last year. But I want his numbers to be better than they are this year. I feel he's wasted when he's required to put this much defensive work. And then also crash the box and try to influence. I think he's been given so many tasks that I would like narrow his role a little bit for the future. That's what I would do. Anyway, thank you guys. Tune in later today to hear everyone's thoughts about the game and the state of affairs here for the club. See you. Peace.